Thanks for meeting with me, Keely, so we can go over student work and look at the rubric and see how the kids did and give them some effective feedback so that we can move them forward.
Yeah, no, so I've had a chance to read through all of the work, and I know that you've been able to look through it as well, and making sure that we were sticking to the modified argumentative rubric, using just the criteria stated that the students had available. How do you think your students did?
The kids are being able to use evidence and with quotation marks and in that sense, but they're still having a little bit of hard time getting beyond just restating what the quote is saying and moving past the summary part.
Right, I would agree with you. So I don't know if you've seen this document. It's called Analyzing Student Work, but it's something that I've found really useful that I just jot notes as I read and look for overall common errors and misconceptions, as well as successful approaches, and then examples of good explanations, because those are what I can refer back to when I'm looking for anchor papers to share with the class as a model of how to help move them forward. The first thing I saw was that students restated evidence instead of elaborating, and I know we had talked about that as being something you want to work on for this whole semester, kind of where we want to take them next. And so it's interesting to see that some of them use the organizer, but then didn't quite know how to transfer it into that paragraph summary. So maybe just a little bit of explicit instruction on how to do that. How do we do that effectively without necessarily copying the whole thing, because we do want them to pause and say,
and add things in,
revise,
and
exactly.
Like that.
Speaking of transitions, that's actually something that I saw that they struggled with as well. I don't know if you saw that when you were reading the papers.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that was really a big aha moment as in terms of next steps, because I think we were so explicit, and 12-year-olds can be so literal that we said, evidence, thorough explanation, evidence, thorough explanation, and that's what we got.
Yeah, and they started right there and didn't add all the other things that naturally comes in with writing and the things that they should revise in from a graphic organizer or the pre-writing into the actual final writing.
Right. So what do you think we could do about that portion of it without where could we go with that?
I think we need to talk more about explicitly using sentence frames more often and kind of showing them in mini lessons how to use a sentence frame and practice adding those to their writing more naturally, I think.
I agree. Is there a way that we could maybe tie your warm-up to sentence frames, or maybe a sentence frame of the day to go with your warm-up?
That's a really good idea. I think that students would really respond to that. And then during the share-out portion, they can hear effective and strong models using the sentence frame, and we can work through maybe some of the weaker uses.
The students who annotated the text had more evidence to cite when they were using the graphic organizer. So let me see if I can find a good example. Overall, I was just really impressed with the annotation skills.
Yeah, we've been practicing that.
So what I also saw was that I had a really difficult time reading some of
their handwriting is not so good. So.
Right, and that kind of brought me back to the UDL principles. I know that we built a number of them into the lesson to try and provide scaffolding and support.
Right.
We started out referring, we had the posters with the criteria for analysis. We had the graphic organizer to help them, build their ideas. Unfortunately, not everyone used that effectively, so I'm not sure if it was as helpful as we wanted it to be at all times. And then we also had the sentence frames, which again, they didn't use as much as we would have liked. So a scaffold we had built in, but maybe need to practice a little bit more. And then the handwriting piece we hadn't really prepared for with any kind of adaptive technology, but it makes me think, how could we support those students that really struggle with the writing component, where their physical product is difficult for them. So I know that we just got the Chromebooks on campus.
But I think that if we offer that as an alternative to the handwriting portion, I know those students would definitely want to utilize that. And I think that would open it up more to let them focus on the core skills that we're looking for.
Right, really getting their ideas out and not letting their handwriting hinder them expressing their ideas clearly.
So I think we need to make sure that when we're giving our feedback, they have something that they can do, like a specific action. Like, let's look at this right now and everyone find their evidence and how did you use this? What transitions did you use? And really looking at specific things and things that they can take on in that lesson specifically.
Right. So we do have a list of elements of effective feedback, and like you said, they are specific and they're not necessarily something you would give a student all at one time. But there's different areas that we can focus on today. So we want to make sure that the feedback, like you said, is actionable so that it's specific, useful, and they can do something with it. It's not just overall you need to get better at
Let's look at these 10
blank.
things today. Let's look at this like 2 things today.
And then we also want to make sure it's user-friendly. So making sure that they can understand what the feedback means and aren't overwhelmed by it.
I think that can definitely hinder moving on, is because there's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I need to do, and I don't know what to do next, and where do I start? How do I fix it?
Do you have any questions about how we are going to approach this today with students?
Yeah, what specific things are we going to focus on today? I think I would definitely want to talk about claims and making sure they have their claim as their topic sentence and adding that and hoping that that makes their writing a lot stronger.
I think you read my mind. That was kind of my big thing is the organization piece and helping them restructure their essay so that their claim can be referred to later on in their elaboration. So that we have a clear claim.
And always connecting back.
And always connecting back, because a lot of them still elaborated their evidence but didn't elaborate on how that supported
and if they don't have it in their paragraph, they
then they
kind
can't
of forget
refer to it.
and they're just kind of going meandering down somewhere else.
Exactly. And that's where I think we saw that leads to the other problems, like using the same quote twice or saying the same thing over again. So I think if we address those, a lot of the other smaller components will kind of
follow in.
Exactly.